Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend DG Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your Captain Charlie, the Professor Esser. And with me as always is me skinny rich friend and first mate.
It's Mozz.
Oh, Mozz, so glad you're here. So glad we're once again talking. Andor, in a galaxy far, far away, there are those who must deal with the various Capes and Lunatics, gods and monsters that exist, and the consequences thereof. We're talking about Andor, Season 1, Episode 8, Narkina 5. The Empire catches up to Cassian, but are as yet unaware of his identity and past. Our director of this episode is the incredible Toby Haynes, Bo Willman, and gets our written by credit. Our created by credit goes to Tony Gilroy, and of course George Lucas gets our based on Star Wars by credit. I guess we can say that Bo is the hardest working person in show business this week because they get no written by, but maybe the hardest working person is really Toby Haynes, our director. Okay, so this is a fun episode. This is basically, remember how we all got sentenced to 6 years in prison for what should have been a 6-month offense?
Yeah.
I'm just going to be honest with you, Mozz. I think that's an unsustainable business model.
Oh, certainly.
I don't think, that's the thing. It's like criminality. No one likes criminality per se, but, dealing with it is a part of life. And the fact of the matter is, if you start making everyone a criminal, you're not going to get more order. And that seems to be arguably the purpose, the plan of the rebels here, is that they really think the Empire is stupid enough to do it. And by gosh, the Empire is, Mozz.
And it speaks to one of Cassian's initial observations about the Empire is that they're so arrogant. They assume that their foothold is so strong that they can't even fathom that they could ever make a mistake. We are the Empire. If we do it, it can't be wrong. Right? Wasn't that what Nixon said, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's not illegal if the president does it.
Right.
And the problem is that's a patently ridiculous idea. Right. Who told you that?
But it's like one of these things where, like the old fable about the king with the king's new clothes, the emperor's new clothes, whatever. But in this situation, it's almost like they're all emperors and they're all relying on the other guy paying attention. It's so gigantic and sprawling, the Empire, that the bureaucracy is such that everybody can say, oh yeah, I'm sort of an ignorable face. I'm just a cog in the wheel. I can mess around. And the rest of the Empire, as strong as it is, will compensate. But everybody's doing it,
But, and I would agree with you to a point. The whole core of a self-replicating bureaucracy, if you want to do a self-replicating Kafkaesque bureaucracy correct, you don't draw attention to anything. And that's the thing. All these big moves, they draw attention to everything. And whereas it's much easier to just make it like, oh no, there's a typo on this thing. Like Brazil, that's a thing that you almost could see of the bureaucracy just continuing on, because when they do make a mistake, it's something small and tiny, and it screws up someone's life immeasurably, but it's so small and tiny, it doesn't screw up everybody's life. This is like on a massive scale, suddenly having battle droids lift people up. Now, granted, ironically, lifted up the right guy. Like, by sheer luck, they just wander onto this guy. And I guess from Cassian's perspective, and I knew you went into this last episode that maybe Cassian wanted to get caught again, because he should know better. He should know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that he wanted to get caught, but there was an impulse in him that saw danger around the corner, and the olfactory sense was going crazy. He couldn't resist it. Like Pepe Le Pew when he smells the cat's or something. He was carried off by it. He couldn't help himself. And unfortunately, he got wrapped up. He got a little too close to the sun. But something was pulling him.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And he got pulled. He got pulled into this, and this is where he is now. And it's quite an interesting prison. Especially in the sense that, it is completely reliant on the idea that we can do the shock pain thing whenever we want to, which, that's a common sci-fi trope. In this case, I'm assuming it's an implant because it's clearly not a collar,
Right. No, I think it's just the floor.
It's just the floor.
Electrified. That's why they have to have bare feet, and the soldiers are all wearing like insulated shoes. I thought that was an interesting way to do it rather than the shock collars, because that's what everybody does. But I thought that was kind of an interesting sort of thing, like the floor is lava, right? Get in yourselves. And it was so much more draconian and scary because there were no bars, but you can't do nothing. It's a blank, but you can't walk out of there.
Yeah, but I mean, not to be rude, but pretty clearly one could easily figure out a way to make shoes. Because
but if you get caught with shoes, then you get forcibly whatever. It's another one of those things. Obviously, the door is open. But if you step on it, you're not going to have a good day, right? It's one of those things. Like, of course, you could fashion shoes of some sort, but if you're ever caught, it's like they probably won't ever hear from you again.
Oh man, I'm gonna throw this out, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but like because here's the thing: when he's going down, you can see him just in his classic case in the joint thing. Like, they're going to let him through, but the guy's not here yet. It's like, the guy goes, because they're understaffed too, So he knows they're understaffed. He knows what's going on.
And he knows it's the empire, and he knows it's the bureaucracy. That's ripe for the picking.
But there's a part of me that wonders, because, they have the unlimited foodstuffs.
Yeah.
That if he can, just pour out enough stuff, and let it dry, let the gruel dry into a shoe.
It's a great idea. And I think that's exactly where they want us. It's now turned into a Prison Break story, right? And so we're already that bar looks a little loose. So, I wonder if you can unscrew that. And they're having you, have all these thoughts.
And that's the fun. Although, and again, within this, I like the premise. I like the idea of the competition of building the parts, because it's an interesting. Gamifying it. It's obviously the smart way to do, and to say, anyone who does this gets that, and I don't think shocking the lowest table is a good plan.
I'm sure productivity is the curve is in the right direction if you're management.
Yeah, well, but except that obviously people that get shocked, that's the thing. If you have one poor performing team that gets shocked every day, but they're still making things, eventually they're going to make a lot less. I guess the Empire doesn't care if they die. So.
Right, because now not just do they already have an unlimited supply of dissidents that they can use as slave labor, but now the benchmark for what's considered a dissident is far lower. So you are going to be inundated with people that you can use for much longer. And look at this old man on table 5. My word, how long has he been there?
Yeah, and longer. It will be the answer, and that's the. But dang it, he is still working, man. He knows his gig, and from his perspective, hey, it keeps me busy, and it's 3 hots and a cat, which I guess is an argument to be made. I do like that they do seem to show that Cassian does improve the productivity of the team. Because he's watching it and he's saying, okay, so that falls, that drops, that moves, and this is how we do the efficiency.
He's good at people. So if there's a little bit of conflict, whatever, he's good at mediating it, and he's good at being, okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. We got to get it done. Let me step over there. Mm-hmm. He's willing to do whatever he needs to in order to get the job done.
Yeah, and that's, because that's how you build a team, and that's how you make your allies, and that's how you plan ahead to eventually figure out what you do next. Now that's Andy Serkis, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Good old Andy Serkis, good old Claw, good old Snoke.
And that is one legendary speech he gives. I am the one in control. You play against the other tables, I play against the other rooms. He's so menacing and so authoritative.
Well, that's an interesting take. It's a question of, is it menacing or is it being honest and just saying,
yeah, I think it's all those things, but he does need you to immediately relent control and relent to his authority, and he has to snatch that from you to a degree. He'll have time to be nice to you later if he chooses to, but right now you need to understand I am in control here, right?
But I guess the argument you can make in that is that even as he's saying I'm in control, he's also saying I am not in control, because I play against the other floors. Like my whole deal here is I'm trying to get you guys to do the best. And that's why you're playing against these other tables. But regardless of what you tables do, if you guys all call it a day and one of you does a lousy job, I get hit. And that's the real threat of it. And not only that, but I think that is what lays the groundwork for, again, the failure of the system. Because, you can put a guy in management, but it doesn't mean he's not still a worker. It doesn't mean that he forgets where he came from,
right,
or the fact that he's still on the grind,
Right.
Just because being a manager of the store doesn't mean you're an owner. You're still a worker just like every other worker. You're just the guy who has to be held accountable when things don't go the way they should at the store, Right. And so Andy Serkis's character in this is really interesting. And again, especially in the way that you can see he's no hand at this. Because he immediately sees in Cassian a guy who can be a useful member of the team.
He also sees somebody who hasn't been broken by the system yet, so he could cause problems, right? He's like, listen, we have a set way of doing things here, and his motivation is you just bury your head in the work and you don't notice the time slipping away, right? And which is an admirable thing from his perspective to tell Cassian, this is how you get through this place, right?
And to be fair, that was a lot more powerful when it was a 6-month sentence, not a 6-year sentence. And, and this I think is where
probably even more important and helpful for him to come to terms with these lessons, right? If he's not Cassian Andor, if he's just some regular Joe Schmo, right? It would be much more beneficial for you to come to terms with how things are going to be rather than to torture yourself constantly thinking, oh, woe is me, or why is this happening to me, or how is it? It's not going to end, right?
But the reality is that we see that there are that at a certain point when you do feel the hopelessness, people step off the grid. People step out and they walk on the floor because you know what? I don't know what that's going to do to me, but you know what? I won't be here.
Yeah.
Wherever I'll be somewhere else. And if I'm nowhere is better.
Better than here.
Exactly. And that is the problem that the Empire faces in this and that the Empire is missing. The Empire is thinking, like you said, well, we can just, they're seeing all these pieces as numbers. We'll increase the number of prisoners. That means we'll increase the number of people working at the prisons, which means we'll increase the number of TIE fighters we're building, yada, yada, yada. But you know what? They are not thinking about what the actual outcome is and how BS, what do they call them? Lifestyle crimes or just when you make everything a crime,
quality of life crimes.
Yeah, quality of life crimes or whatever it is, speaking out against the Empire, or even, damaging Empire. And we really don't even know what Cassian did, except for resisting arrest. His crime was resisting arrest. What is he being arrested for? Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Don't make us add resisting prosecution to your crime, And it's like, but when you do that, you're gonna bring up a lot of people that are going to say, you know what, this is wrong. Because you're going to get somebody's brother or somebody's uncle or somebody's aunt in here, and you're going to get someone that feels like this is not cool, Empire. It's like, we were kind of cool with you, bring order to the Outer Rims, but quite frankly, you're not even doing that,
Yeah, you were.
Jabba's still running Tatooine. Let's be honest here. They could not take down Jabba. So it's
by the same token, though, I mean, we see these things happen in our own global politics, right? Mm-hmm. We helped you defeat Russia, hooray! And now all of a sudden, we're causing a lot of stuff that's creating a lot of terroristic sentiments.
Yeah, well, I mean, that Cold War was probably more trouble than it was worth. I'll be honest with you. I mean, and it's not to minimize the danger of the fascism of communism. The real problem with the world is that we tend to focus too much on economics and not enough on politics. Because that was the real problem with that whole thing was if you make your whole thing about we need to stop communism rather than we need to stop fascism. But of course, I mean, the problem with that is that, of course, America had a strong fascist bent as well. It had a strong democratic bent. It had a strong Republican bent, but there was also a lot of people that liked it when a lot of people didn't vote and a lot of people knew their place and just the people in charge were in charge. So, that's the thing. And that is what was the takeaway the takeaway from World War II was we should fight fascism. The takeaway from the Cold War was, well, we can't have nice things because that's communism.
Right. The parallel I was drawing was, places like Afghanistan and when in the Middle East, all the stuff we've done after we helped the Taliban expel the Russians.
Although ironically, that's the interesting secondary aspect of the coin, which is that a lot of what you might call, religious-based fascism that you see in the Middle East, and other places, and again, not to say we don't have religious-based fascism in the U.S., because we do, no, not to that degree, because and it's ironic because fortunately capitalism keeps religious-based fascism at bay in the U.S., but it's like, that's the problem. It's like the problem is always fascism. It's not, it's not religion. It's not money. It's fascism. It's saying we're not going to discuss these things and have a vote and work through this and actually have a regular process by which we debate these things on a regular basis. Now, granted, that can get you into that Brazilian, and when I say Brazil, I'm talking about the movie Brazil, not the country Brazil. The Kafkaesque bureaucracy, which of course is based on law and rule and order and the process by which we do things, which is at its core the nature of propaganda. But, that's a whole other thing with a recent Law and Order, but I won't get into that right now. It's like, yes, I know they were innocent, but they had a process by which they could deal with this. It doesn't matter that they would have to spend another 30 years in jail. It was the process they were supposed to follow. Yeah, that doesn't work with people. And that's the problem here, is that it's not going to work with people, that even if there were a process, and the sad part is there's not a process in the Empire. There's no library access here. There's no writ of appeal in the Empire. And so at a certain point, it's like, why do people cooperate if they don't have to? And why does that not lead to just more and more rebellion within the structure of the system?
Well, it looks like it does.
It does, exactly. It's almost as if this is leading to a point. We do get a little bit of Mon Mothma in this. She is smoozing with the elite. She's trying to get her allies to help her out. She has connected with the banker, who at first thinks he's going to be the rebel, but no, she's the rebel. What? Yeah. But both of them probably were a little weirded out with, of course, our antique dealer, who people suggest may actually be a former Jedi. Although again, it goes into this idea of, what is the balance of the Force? And if I open myself up to the Force, or if I close myself off to the Force, what does that mean for me? But anyway, moving right along. I like the way that she schmoozes people. And again, it is this idea of, nobody that she talks to is actively evil, though they are all more than happy to passively accept the banality of it. And that, of course, is always the crux of how these organizations, that is how these, that banality of evil is how these things continue, because it's not done by people who are actively being evil, who say, yeah, let's get all these rebel scum. It's people who are just like, well, there's a process, and I'm sure we're not, even if we occasionally arrest an innocent person, there's a legal process. There's a way they can get free. There's a way that this can be discussed. And we're going to just let it walk through. We're going to slow walk it, and hopefully get to a point where this person actually is, redeemed. But at the same time, that slow walk is a slow walk. And and the real problem is,
I can still have my squig drinks while I do my slow walk, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. We need our little dried worms, because everyone knows the worm is the best part of the tequila.
Of course.
Of course. And that's just the idea. It is a sad reality of it that, these are people, they aren't actively evil, but they're very passively evil. But the good news about being passively evil is that you can actually do good if you can put them in the right direction. Because at their nature, they are passive. Their nature is, I am passive. I just want to make sure I have my things. And what you have to do is you have to convince them that they can have their things and not be evil. And that can be hard in an empire where there are so few things. They have limitations on things. This is not a Star Trek universe, even though they have amazing things. Although one could argue, well, probably with all of the things they have, they probably could do much more to make sure everyone had enough. Yeah. But that's always hard in any kind of galaxy. And of course, the biggest problem with that is that you need centralized location to make sure everyone has enough. And then once you do centralized location, you start doing homogenization, which individuals always get bothered by, you can't be happy that you have enough bread if it is not part of your culture to eat bread. You can't say, yeah, it's great. I have lots and lots and lots of this nice, delicious, white bread, but we actually eat this other thing that you have now destroyed so that to make sure there's enough bread for everybody. You know, it's a problem, but that's society.
We also had that great scene with Luthen and Forrest Whitaker. What's his character's name?
Oh gosh, Forrest Whitaker's character.
Maybe my favorite scene so far. He is such a great actor, man. You really get like this sense of like this worn down, battle hardened, but like wiser for his years kind of guy. Really cunning, clever, doesn't fall into Luthen's traps he's trying to set for him. And to watch Luthen work these like, back channel political angles is so interesting. It's like, we all have one goal. I know they're all Philistines or, but we all have to come together. None of us are going to get what we want unless we come together. Then he tries like all these different ways. Then he goes, what are you? You're just a cold guy in a cave begging for scraps, to watch him ply that angle and then that angle. And the satisfaction over his face when he says, no sale was made today, Luthen. Good luck on your adventure. I was like, oh man.
Yes. Saw Gerrera.
Oh man.
Saw Gerrera. And yeah, I mean, honestly, just the Saw Gerrera. I mean, that is a sweet moment for any Rogue One fan. It just, here is this guy who is, and of course he's the guy who's lost everything, and he fights because he lost everything. Because what does a man who's lost everything have to lose? Nothing. So I might as well keep on fighting. But of course, because he has lost everything, he is also the most against creating new connections, and that leads to everything we get with this. So,
criticism of all the other factions is that they're separatists, they're segregators, they're not, and then that's what you're doing, man.
Well, exactly, because that's the thing, because that is at its crux the problem with all of it, from the Empire to the New Republic to the Old Republic, is that at the end of the day, nobody wants to eat your bread. And, that's the thing of it. It's like, eventually, you can give everyone, like I said, you can give everyone bread, but if people don't want to eat bread, it's not as good of a deal as it looks to the people who want to eat bread. And, and it's a hard concept for anyone, because if you eat bread, you think, oh, what's wrong with bread? Bread is great. Have you made it? Have you had a sandwich? It's delicious, But, there will always be people who, for whatever reason, this is not right for them. And they feel like the entire process is based on this idea of, we want to take from you to make sure that other people can have this thing. And we'll give you this thing too, but it's not what you want. It is a failure of the great river of commerce, as the Ferengi would say. That, there are things people want, and they will trade you what they have for what they want, but you can't make them have what you want them to have, even if it's better for them. Right. Because they don't want to be told what's better, they want to have what they want.
Yeah, but maybe it's a PR problem. Maybe the idea is not that you can't have your Alderaan potatoes, you got to have bread, but the idea is you can have bread without the threat of somebody slicing your throat. That's a different conversation.
That is a very different conversation,
right?
But then you have the
provide that security too.
Exactly, you have to provide the security, and then you also have the other aspect of it, which is that this is the basic. This is just so you know, this is the whole thing with Russia and Ukraine, is that Russia historically took all the food from Ukraine to give to Russia and let Ukraine starve when Ukraine was controlled by Russia. And they've had a lot of bad blood since. So historically speaking, that's the thing. And that's what happens. It's like someone has what they have and they're living a life of plenty. Then someone says, give me all that you have so I can give it to everyone else. And that's fine until you actually take so much that everyone else starves. And that's, now, of course, there's that argument like, well, do they maybe have too much to start with? And that's the whole billionaire conversation, which I don't want to get into. Although we can always talk about that on superconductivity because that's where it always goes there. But Mozz, any final thoughts on tonight's episode?
No, I love this show, and this arc that we're setting on is one of the most satisfying.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really excited that we're going to do a prison break. At least that's the thing. I assume it's a prison break. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that there's so many great prospects for how you tell a story. The heist is one which we did do a good heist. We did a bit of a family story, but to top it off with a prison break, that's pretty good to me. By the way, if you guys like prison breaks, or if you like anything and you want to talk to us about it, why don't you write to us in the old-fashioned email way at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com, or call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Leave us a message about the show, and we will talk about it. We will play it on the air. Just don't use dirty words. Likewise, go down to linktree, linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics. Get yourself some awesome merch, and, see all of our other shows. See if any of those are interesting to you. And if you'd like to give us money either through Patreon or the Cash App, we are always happy to take your money or buy merch like t-shirts and the like. And Mozz, if they do any of those things and they want to talk to you about it, they'd like to complain about the quality of our shirts or compliment you about the quality of our mugs,
they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our mothers and fathers once did at superconductivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconductivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things when I feel like it at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssescr. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Ding.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, you delightful little landlubbers. You've come across the big briny of the internet and to watch and listen to all the things the streaming services have to offer. Please come again next week when we once again sail full stream ahead. Arr.